Hello everyone, it's Aderonke again. I hope your day is going well. Today I'd like to discuss another proverb. I'd like to update the list of proverbs that I've uploaded so far and talk about it a little bit. Maybe discuss one or two moral lessons that one can get from that proverb. The characters of the proverb are the sheep, the dog, and feces.
Nínú òwe wa tòní, a ó fi ajá, àgùntàn àti ìgbẹ́ ṣe àpèjúwe. Yàtọ̀ sí ìgbẹ́, a tún lè pe ìgbẹ́ ní imí, ìgbọ̀nsẹ̀ àti bẹ́ẹ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ lọ. Mo ti ṣe kí ni màá pe fídíò yẹn náà? Mo ti ṣàgbéléwò kan tẹ́lẹ̀ tẹ́ ẹ lè wò tí mo ti yànnàná àwọn orúkọ míì tá a máa ń pe ìgbẹ́ yàtọ̀ sí ìgbẹ́. Màá gbé hábì kan ní ibì kan ṣá. Màá ṣáà gbé há tẹ́ ẹ lè wò níbi tẹ́ ẹ ti lè wò tẹ́ ẹ bá ṣe tán. Proverb for the day features the sheep, the dog, and feces, and I made the video in the past that includes the names that we typically call feces and defecating. So I'll link it somewhere for easy access, somewhere around, maybe on the what's it called, the cards, whatever, maybe the end card or something, so that you can see. In the Yoruba language, Àgùntàn is what we call sheep, and ajá is what we call dog. Àgùntàn, ajá, àgùntàn, ajá, àgùntàn, do. I'm doing this, and I'm only going to be doing that on this page to give you like a brief, I don't know, nudge to see my video on tone marks if you haven't, and to start practicing what you learned if you really did see the video and it was helpful for you. Àgùntàn. I will cover how to pronounce. Perhaps it would be my, apart from the one that I'm going to make next, my following video in my Yoruba lessons for beginners series. So I will still get to pronunciation and how to do it well. Àgùntàn. Ajá, remi, ajá, àgùntàn, do. So àgùntàn or ajá, àgùntàn, and ajá, not or. The sheep and the dog. The proverb that I'd like to cover is this one. Àgùntàn tó bá bájá rìn á jẹ̀gbẹ́. 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 Let's expand it a little bit. Let's, because some of the words included there are not original words. They are contraction of two words. Yoruba people like to contract words. We can contract as many as 4 words, 4 short words sometimes. We typically combine 2 words. Fewer times we combine 3, but we like to combine words. And I like to expand them just so that you don't think that a word is original if it really is not. So, àgùntàn to is not an original word. In this case, to can be up to. So in that case, it's original. It's one word. Ta lo to, who are you up to? Who is your mate? Sort of thing. To. But in this case, it's not to in that sense. It's T-O. Àgùntàn. T-O. So, to is the contraction of T-O. Baja. Baja is not an original word. It's a contraction. It's a contraction of ba and aja. Baja it's not an original word. It's a contraction of two words. Ba and aja. Rìn is to walk. I'll get there. I'll get there. I'll get to the meanings of each. Rìn. Jegbe. Jegbe is not an original word combined like that. You have to expand to see the two words that are included in jegbe, and they are je and igbe. Je and igbe. Àgùntàn tí ó bá ajá rìn á jẹ ìgbẹ́. Àgùntàn tí ó bá ajá rìn á jẹ ìgbẹ́. Àgùntàn tí ó bá ajá rìn á jẹ ìgbẹ́ is how you would write it or say it if you don't want to combine any words. But sometimes fluency is also sensed through how comfortable you are with joining words. So by the time it gets to the point where you're really fluent, with the knowledge and confidence that you know what each word means, you will be, I suppose, it will be easier for you to combine. Once you have the confidence that you know what each word means, combining should not be difficult for you. But this is what it looks like expanded. Now let's see what Àgùntàn tó bá Bájá Rìn á jegbe means. Let's take the words one by one. Àgùntàn tó bá ajá rìn á jegbe. Àgùntàn is sheep, like I mentioned earlier. To is T-O. T-O. We typically say to that in translation, not necessarily transliteration, but translation because it's easier. It's, I suppose, less stressful when you bring. But in and of itself, to, T-O. T is if, and it could also be that. T is if. Tí mo bá dé. Tí mo bá lọ. Tí mo bá lọ, màá dé. No, that is, yeah. Be is a synonym of T in that case when you're using it as if. Bí mo bá lọ, màá dé. Tí mo bá lọ, màá dé. T, be, they are synonyms. If. T could also be that. Ọmọ tí mo rí, the child that I saw. So T could also be that. O is he or she. O is he or she. The reason why we typically just say to that is we take that and we just make the O silent. We just make it silent and say to is that. But T is that. O is he or she or it. It's a pronoun. So I will show you how it would look if you choose to say like each word contained in T-O. If he or she would be what it would be. If he or she. But if you want to say that, you would just make the O silent with the assumption that anybody would know that whatever you're saying involves either a he, a she, or a it anyway. O is he or she or it. Our pronouns are not gender differentiating, you know. So to is that, or you could say if he or she or it, and you would be fine. Ba is the perfect word, English word for ba. doesn't really exist, to be honest. But would seems to, people typically say toba if he or she or it would, or that would, ba in this case typically toba de if he or she or it returns. Toba lo, no, toba, I'm trying to use toba. Yeah, toba lo works as well because toba is also involved. Toba lo if he or she or it goes. Toba de if he or she or it returns or arrives. Toba, you see, it works together. They tend to go together. So you could say would is one way to translate that. If he or she or it would return, if he or she or it would go, or if he or she or it goes, depending. It's not, both languages are not exactly the same, and so you can't swear with your life that in fact every translation is perfectly identical to the variant. But would is what ba is. Would is the closest. Would. Then translations may vary. It's would here, but in another context it could be meet. Mo ba e nile, I met you at home. Ba could also be meet, even find in specific context. So, and it works with T, like I said, if. So if he or she or it would, if he or she or it would come, if he or she or it would go, things like that. So it works with this. Toba, you hear that a lot, but that would is another way to just put it. Toba, that would, Anyway, baja is ba and aja combined. Ba is with. See, I told you the translations may vary. In this case, ba is with. Ba mi rin, walk with me. Ba mi lo, go with me. Ba mi shere, play with me. Ba is with. And then aja is dog. Aja is dog, like I mentioned earlier. Rin is walk. Rin is walk. Rin is walk. Rin. Then a is will. A is will. A is will. Jegbe. Two words are combined to form jegbe. Je is it. Je. I have a video on je and the varying meanings that it could have. Mafiha. Later I will put it somewhere for easy access. Je is it. Igbe is feces. Again, igbe is not the only word for feces. You could call it imi. You could call it igbonse. You could call it no. Shega is defecate, but iga is not feces. So anyway, the position that you take the squatting is iga. So shega is squat. But that's what each of these words mean. Àgùntàn tó bá ajá rìn á jẹ ìgbẹ́. Sheep that would walk with dog will eat feces. Sheep that would with dog walk. See, it's not the exact same language. The arrangements many times differ. Walk with dog. I will eat feces. A sheep that walks with dogs or with a dog will eat feces. A sheep that walks with a dog or with dogs will eat feces. Or you could say a sheep. This would be a rough transliteration. A sheep, if he or she would walk with a dog, will eat feces. It sounds rough. So I suppose just go with that. A sheep that this is the translation. A sheep that walks with dogs will eat feces. What's the what are the behavioral differences between dogs and sheep that you can think of? I mean, we typically see sheep as gentler gentler than dogs. Another thing is that dogs eat feces. I did a Google search and I was trying to see why. Why do dogs eat feces? What for? And the results were surprising. I thought it was going to be like a stress based thing, or if they're stressed out or whatever, but not always. And I mean, they could be starving, yes, but sometimes if their food is not properly digested, they might eat their feces. They eat other dogs' feces. They don't see the big deal. Sometimes if they, I suppose they like the smell of poop. Let me see if I can find something. It's pretty interesting that dogs will eat their own poop, and it's not always stress based. Dogs will rarely eat soft, poorly formed stools or diarrhea. They appear to be attracted most to hard stools. Females are more likely to eat poop. What is this? Okay, I think this was some sort of research that was done, field research, I suppose. Greedy eaters. Dogs who steal food off tables tend to be poop eaters. 85% of poop eaters will not eat their own feces, only that of other dogs. 92% of poop eaters want fresh stuff, only 1 to 2 days old. Females are more likely to eat poop. Let's see. I also read it somewhere. I don't think it was really this site, that sometimes dogs will eat poop when they've been punished for pooping in the house. So perhaps they were beaten at some point in their lives for pooping indoors, and so if they do that even outdoors, they want to eat it. I don't think that is a good scenario, good example. But isolation, restrictive confinement, anxiety, attention seeking, inappropriate association with real food, scenting it on their mothers, living with a sick or elderly dog, I suppose anxiety. Okay, yeah. Often a result of a person using punishment to almost verbatim with how I read it initially. So it's pretty interesting that that dogs eat poop. And sheep don't. Sheep don't eat poop under any circumstance. They don't eat their poop. At least from our ancestors' observation, you can't really catch a sheep eating their poop. So I suppose an association with, if one is a sheep, or if a sheep exists, associating with a dog may influence the sheep to, I suppose, try eating feces. It's not their behavior to eat feces, but with just the right amount of pressure, they might give in to, oh, taste it. Pretty sure it tastes good. That's the Yoruba people's. They're using that in this proverb to create a kind of feeling or a kind of thought. Àgùntàn Bájá Rìn. Excuse me. Jegbe. If you walk with the dog, and you are a sheep, and it's not, eating feces is not something you do, you will end up doing it. I believe strongly that in cases where there are more sheep than dogs, you know, not enough dogs to influence the sheep's behavior, I think that's fine. Obviously, this is much more than sheep and dogs. I'm also referring to humans, as you may have guessed. In that case, it would be fine, because even if the dog is pressuring you to eat feces, oh, give it a try, taste it, it tastes good. I know that it's not something you would typically do, but just give it a try, and they're nudging you. Having this many sheep will be effective, or should be effective. Well, in real life scenarios with people, it may not always be effective, but it may be effective with stopping you from giving it a try. Like, bro, you don't eat feces. Don't do that. I know you want to be friends with the dog, but don't do that. Eating feces is not something we do. But if there are this many dogs, let's say that there are this many dogs, and one is the only sheep amongst them. Like, even if you state that it's not really something that you do, eating feces is not really your behavior. If you have this many dogs around and they are pressuring you, even just one dog is enough. Just you and the dog. Even one is enough to pressure you. So I don't know. I suppose the best would be for sheep to avoid the company of dogs if they want to completely avoid eating feces. Less influence with one dog, I believe, but amongst this many, there's bound to be a problem. And even with one dog, like I said, you don't need that many friends whose behaviors are far different from yours to influence you negatively. I mean, even just one is enough. Even if it's just one dog and just one sheep, it's enough. Sometimes the less influence thing may not always work. Like, sometimes a person will go to a community, they would have a kind of bad behavior, and none of the other community members would be able to stop just one from the flock, from the community, to try whatever the dog is doing that doesn't necessarily correspond with who they are. Sometimes this many people won't stop that one sheep or that one person from eating shit. So I was thinking, why would a sheep even leave the company of their flock and go after a dog anyway? Like, I'm saying sheep and dog, but I am referring to people, definitely. Why would a sheep go after a pack instead of a flock? Why? What is the reason? Sometimes it could be, I suppose, loneliness. Loneliness can be a factor. Low self-esteem, typically, especially in human scenarios, the need for acceptance, low self-esteem. Oh, I want to be like the dog. The dog is more outspoken than I am, and I feel like I'll be happy here, whatever. Curiosity, hurts. If perhaps someone from your flock hurt you, or the whole entire flock hurt you, and you want to leave the community sometimes, maybe for love or attraction, the opposites attracting, is also there. In the human scenario, it'd be really interesting to see. I mean, it's pretty common. it would be really interesting to see. It makes it sound like, oh, it's something. It happens every time, every day. It happens many times. People leaving their own communities or leaving their comfort zone to join people who they don't really share certain behaviors with, just for all the things that I mentioned. Low self-esteem, just because of, not necessarily for, but because of all the things that I mentioned. The point of this proverb is associating with the wrong persons will cause you to do things that you'd rather not do, things that are not part of you, things that are not comfortable, you're not comfortable with. And even if you're comfortable with eating feces as a sheep, you're comfortable with doing things that you'd rather not do, things that in the long run may not be good for you. You may think it's good for you because oh wow, I mean, I should have been tasting feces since I was young. I never knew feces tasted this good. But ultimately, because your stomach isn't shaped for that, when the infection sets in, you will see the reason you should have stayed away from doing that in the first place. Associating with the wrong persons will cause you to do things that you'd rather not do, or even more specifically, things that you should not do. And why would a sheep eat feces when they are with a dog? To please, typically. I'm thinking of the human scenario now, and to feel accepted or secure. To please, and to feel accepted or secure. Even if one is rejected, because I intentionally included rejection or exile and toxicity while I was wondering about the reason a sheep would leave their flock in the first place. Is your flock toxic? Were you rejected or exiled? Why? And these are valid factors, but there will be other sheep. You don't need to go to a dog. There will be other sheep. I scribbled something here. I mentioned that which means even if the entire flock is completely against you, or you've been completely, thrown out of place, and you don't feel like you're part of the flock anymore, there will be someone somewhere. I don't know if I said that correctly earlier. There will be someone somewhere who would still take a liking to you. It would be really false. I mean, if you don't find anybody, then you're not looking hard enough. It would be really false to say that, oh, because this flock rejected me, every other flock in the entire world reject me. That's not true. Also, I scribbled that earlier as well. Okay, it's not showing because of my green screen in the background. Which means it can't be that bad that you will not find one person, even one person, that would still want to walk with you. One sheep, if you're a sheep. If your behavior is a certain way, and you know that going to a different kind of breed, in quotes, may not be good. And this is not related to race or anything, or gender or anything. This is more behavior based. It's not a sheep that leaves a white sheep and goes to a black. No. It has nothing to do with race or gender or anything. It's more behavior. If your behavior is a certain way, you know inherently that you have no business. It's like even introversion and extroversion. If you're an introvert, you know that you will be easily worn down if you spend this much time, but you may do it anyway, or go to the top of a heavy mountain and try to jump off because your more extroverted friends are doing it to please, for acceptance, but you know deep down that you really shouldn't. It's also reminiscent of I mentioned I did that proverb. Or was it a metaphor? I think it was a metaphor a while ago. The auk is playing with the pigeon, and the pigeon is happy to be getting that much attention from the auk. But the auk knows what they're doing. Àṣà ń bẹ́yẹlé ṣeré, ẹyẹlé ń yọ̀, ẹyẹlé ń fikú ṣeré. Àṣà ń bẹ́yẹlé ṣeré, ẹyẹlé ń yọ̀, ẹyẹlé ń ṣeré, ẹyẹlé ń yọ̀, ẹyẹlé ń ṣeré, ẹyẹlé ń fikú ṣeré, ẹyẹlé. So the auk is playing with the pigeon. The pigeon is happy. Oh my, see, they gave me all this attention. They love me. I'm the chosen one amongst the pigeons. But there will be a moment of regret as soon as they find themselves in the auk's mouth. The pigeon will definitely reject. They will definitely. What's the word I'm looking for? Regret. They will definitely regret that attention. Ultimately. So I was thinking, what English proverb exists that can sum this up in just a few words? And I was thinking, bad company corrupts good manners. Can you say that is a perfect replacement for sheep that walks with dogs, or associates could also be associates themselves with dogs, will eat feces? Is this a good replacement? It's sort of it's not as profound, like I mentioned here. It's not as profound. It's very literal. A stitch in time saves 9. Make hay while the sun shines. What other English proverbs do I know? But I don't find them as profound. So if you would like to just, I suppose, it won't be a transliteration. It would be like a translation or a synonym, I suppose. If you'd like to say, Àgùntàn tó Bájá Rìn jegbe means bad company corrupts good manners. If you'd like to say that, all well and good. I suppose the end justifies the means. You're still just avoid bad company is the ultimate message. But I find the Yoruba version, I won't say version, the Yoruba proverb to be profound, quite profound. And the ultimate message, of course, is mind the company you keep. That's the ultimate message. The people that you have around can mar you and they can make you. And so mind the company you keep. If you're a sheep and you walk with dogs, you will eat feces. If you don't eat it today, you'll eat it tomorrow. And you will feel the regret at some point. Like, was that really me? And you typically don't know until the relationship with the dog or dogs ends. And you're like, did I really do that? Was that really me? If you don't want to eat feces, if you respect your own self, I suppose experience is always the best teacher. Experience is always the best teacher. But once you learn once, it takes one life experience. It takes just one. Mind the company you keep is the ultimate message.
If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. I'll be more than happy to respond to your questions. If you don't follow me on Instagram and you have not seen the post in my community section, the community section of this channel, I uploaded I suppose you could say, my very first edition of my weekly that I just started. So you might find it interesting to read. I will put the link in the description. Asides the great desire that I have for not only learning Yoruba, but also teaching it, another thing that I like to do besides this is write. So I found that I haven't written in a long time, and I'm very slowly losing zeal to write. I suppose there are a couple of things that prompt you to write more, especially painful events. And once you're past that phase, it's like, oh, well, I'm desperate to write something. So I haven't been writing much. I have a link to my blog, my poetry, you could say poetry blog or website, I'm not sure, blog/website, and I haven't uploaded anything on it since, maybe October of last year or something. So I haven't been writing very much, and I was thinking, well, if I give myself some pressure, by creating this new Cares Weekly, I can write, but also write about things that I like, write about things that relate to the Yoruba culture, so it's like I'm doing two things at once, teaching Yoruba, but at the same time practicing my writing and doing another thing that I love. So the very first edition I made free, but made public. I made public for everyone to see. But in the future, my newer episodes will be available to my patrons only, so that I don't know, just so I can preserve my own energy in some way. Anyway, that's what I will do. Especially for people who support me on Patreon, I want to give them something substantial. I suppose something exclusive to them. They are my real backbones. Well, one backbone. Backbones. They are my backbone. So that's that. About that. What else do I have to say? Nothing. Thank you for your time, and I'll see you in the next one. Enjoy the rest of your day, and bye for now.
Pausa.